In the vast, silent depths of space, the first glimpse of humanity's true power began with a simple sensor ping. The massive alien surveillance network, spanning thousands of star systems, caught an unexpected transmission that would change everything. Admiral Day Park stood motionless on the bridge of the USS Resolute, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The holographic display before him showed a perfect formation of 200 supercarriers, each one a testament to human engineering and strategic brilliance. They hung in space like silent guardians, their sleek hulls reflecting distant starlight. Empress, Kira Valen's flagship, the Imperial Sovereign, trembled slightly as the first reconnaissance images filtered through her communication systems. Her advisors shuffled nervously, their alien features betraying a mix of confusion and growing fear. This was not the humanity they had dismissed as a young, naive species. The supercarriers were unlike anything in galactic history. Each vessel stretched nearly 10 kilometers in length, with weapon systems that could obliterate entire planetary defenses. But it wasn't just their size that made them remarkable. It was the intricate network of quantum adaptive shields, the AI-driven defense protocols, and the computational power that seemed to breathe life into these mechanical giants. Commander Jay Huang reviewed the latest calibration reports. His team had spent decades perfecting these vessels in secret. While alien civilizations fought petty wars and expanded through brute force, humans had been quietly revolutionizing space warfare. Each supercarrier was more than a weapon. It was a mobile research station, a defensive fortress, and a strategic command center. Deep within the carrier's central processing hub, thousands of advanced AI systems worked in perfect harmony. They predicted potential threats, calculated defensive strategies, and maintained systems with a precision that bordered on supernatural. No alien technology could match the intricate dance of human computational intelligence. The alien intelligence. Networks struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. Empress Kira Valen reviewed the data repeatedly, her sophisticated scanning systems unable to fully penetrate the supercarrier's advanced shielding. It was as if these human vessels existed partially outside the known laws of space and technology. One of her senior strategists, a veteran of countless galactic conflicts, whispered a chilling observation. "They've been preparing," he said, his voice barely audible. "While we thought they were a young species, they were building something unprecedented." The formation of supercarriers stretched across the Orion sector like a silent promise. They weren't positioned for attack but for defense, a clear message to any potential aggressors. Humanity would not be an easy target. They would not be conquered. Admiral Park allowed himself a slight smile. Years of secret development, massive resource allocation, and the collective genius of thousands of engineers and strategists had culminated in this moment. These supercarriers represented more than military might. They were a statement of human potential. The alien surveillance systems continued to collect data, each scan revealing more questions than answers. How had humans developed such advanced technology? What strategic thinking lay behind this massive fleet deployment? The questions multiplied with each passing moment. Quantum communication networks buzzed with encrypted messages. Military commanders, research teams, and political leaders watched the unfolding scenario with a mixture of pride and calculated anticipation. This was humanity's moment, a silent declaration of their emergence as a true galactic power. As the first alien reconnaissance ships carefully approached the fleet's perimeter, they were met with a wall of computational complexity that seemed to push the boundaries of known physics. Defensive protocols activated, not with aggression, but with a clinical precision that suggested total control. Empress Kira Valen felt something she had never experienced before, a genuine sense of uncertainty. The human fleet wasn't just a military formation. It was a living, breathing testament to human innovation, strategic thinking, and an approach to technology that defied traditional galactic understanding. The discovery had begun, and with it, the universe would never be the same. The alien research. Teams worked frantically trying to understand the impossible technology they had witnessed. Commander Jay Huang watched from a distant monitoring station, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with intelligent life. quantum adaptive shields were more than just defensive barriers. They were living systems that could predict and neutralize threats before they even materialized. When the first alien weapon systems attempted to probe the human supercarriers, they simply disappeared, not destroyed, but mathematically erased from potential threat calculations. Empress Kira Valen's top scientists ran test after test. Their most advanced scanning technologies could barely penetrate the outer layers of the human vessels. What they saw defied everything they understood about space technology. The shields didn't just block energy. They absorbed, transformed, and redirected it with a precision that seemed almost magical. Inside the USS Resolute's central processing core, thousands of artificial intelligence systems worked in perfect synchronization. They were not just computers, but adaptive intelligence networks that could predict conflict scenarios with impossible accuracy. Each potential threat was analyzed, categorized, and neutralized before it could even form a complete strategy. The alien military commanders watched in growing horror. Their most sophisticated weapon systems, developed over thousands of years of galactic conflict, became nothing more than digital whispers against the human technological barrier. Missiles that could destroy entire planetary systems simply vanished, redirected by computational mathematics that seemed to bend the very rules of physics. One alien researcher noted a terrifying detail. The human shields didn't just defend, they learned. Each interaction with an external threat became a new piece of data, instantly integrated into the defensive network. It was as if the entire fleet was a single, breathing organism with an intelligence far beyond traditional understanding. Commander J. Huang understood the true power of their technology. It wasn't about destruction. It was about understanding, adaptation, and total strategic control. The supercarriers could neutralize entire attack formations without firing a single weapon, simply by existing in a state of computational superiority. Empress Kira Valen's communication systems began receiving strange mathematical sequences. They were not messages, but complex computational challenges, as if the humans were testing the aliens' ability to even comprehend their technological approach. Each sequence was a puzzle, a demonstration of intellectual superiority that went far beyond traditional warfare. The quantum adaptive shields did more than protect. They analyzed, they learned, they predicted. When alien weapon systems approached, they were met not with simple deflection, but with a complete deconstruction of their potential threat. Entire attack strategies were dismantled before they could even be fully formed. Research teams on the alien flagship worked around the clock. They discovered that the human technology wasn't just advanced, it was fundamentally different. Traditional concepts of energy, defense, and computational thinking meant nothing against this new approach. Admiral Park reviewed the initial engagement reports with calm precision. Each interaction with alien technologies was another opportunity to demonstrate humanity's unique approach to technological development. The supercarriers were more than weapons. They were living libraries of strategic intelligence. The alien military began to understand a terrifying reality. They were not facing a traditional enemy. They were confronting a species that had transformed warfare from physical conflict to a complex mathematical equation. Weapons became irrelevant. Strategy became a form of pure intellectual engagement. Quantum communication networks hummed with encrypted data. Humans were not just defending, they were teaching. Each interaction was a lesson in technological possibility, a demonstration of what could be achieved when intelligence was treated as the ultimate weapon. Empress Kira Valen realized something profound. Humanity had not just developed advanced technology. They had reimagined the entire concept of technological interaction. The supercarriers were not just defensive structures, they were living proof of a completely new approach to existence. As the first wave of alien attacks dissolved into mathematical impossibility, one thing became clear. The universe had just met a species that didn't just challenge the rules of technology, they rewrote them entirely. The diplomatic chamber was silent, filled with an electricity that felt almost physical. Humans and alien representatives sat across from each other, a space of calculated tension between them. Rook Mercer, The alien imperial strategist studied the human delegation. They were unlike any diplomatic team he had encountered. No dramatic gestures, no emotional displays, just pure, calculated precision. Commander J. Huang sat at the center, his eyes reflecting a computational calmness that was more intimidating than any aggressive posture. The initial communication was a dance of numbers and strategic projections. Where traditional diplomacy relied on emotional manipulation, humans presented pure data. Each statement was a carefully constructed mathematical model, showing potential outcomes with clinical precision. Empress Kira Valen watched the proceedings with growing frustration. Her typical approach of intimidation and royal proclamation seemed childish against the humans' rational presentation. They didn't argue. They demonstrated. They didn't threaten. They calculated. The human representative pulled up holographic displays showing potential conflict scenarios. Each projection was not just a prediction, but a complete breakdown of potential consequences. Economic impacts, technological disruptions, population movements, everything was analyzed with a depth that made traditional diplomatic discussions look like children's games. Rook Mercer realized something profound. This wasn't just a negotiation. It was an intellectual challenge. The humans were not seeking to win an argument, but to demonstrate a fundamentally different approach to understanding conflict and cooperation. When the alien delegation attempted traditional diplomatic pressure tactics, the humans simply responded, with complex mathematical models showing the exact economic and strategic consequences of such actions. No emotion, no anger, just pure, calculated information. Commander J. Huang's presentation was particularly remarkable. He didn't just present data about potential conflicts. He showed multiple scenario calculations, each with probability matrices, that demonstrated why cooperation was mathematically the most logical approach. The alien communication systems struggled to process the level of information being presented. It wasn't just data. It was a complete reimagining of diplomatic interaction. Humans had transformed negotiation from an emotional process to a pure computational exercise. Empress Kira Valen felt something she had never experienced before. A genuine sense of intellectual respect. These humans were not just presenting information. They were teaching an entirely new approach to understanding complex interactions. The diplomatic team's computational approach went beyond simple negotiation. They presented multiple potential future scenarios, each calculated with impossible precision. Economic models, technological development projections, population movement predictions. Everything was analyzed with a depth that made traditional, diplomatic discussions look primitive. One remarkable moment occurred when the human delegation presented a 500-year strategic cooperation model. It wasn't a proposal. It was a complete mathematical breakdown of potential mutual benefits, calculated down to the smallest economic and technological interactions. Rook Mercer noticed something unusual. The humans weren't trying to win. They were trying to demonstrate a better way of understanding complex interactions. Each presentation was an invitation to a new way of thinking, not a traditional diplomatic manipulation. The communication was so precise that traditional diplomatic translators became almost useless. The humans were communicating in a language of pure mathematical logic that transcended traditional linguistic barriers. As the diplomatic session continued, it became clear that this was more than a negotiation. It was a fundamental challenge to how intelligent species could interact. Humans had transformed diplomacy from an emotional, power-based interaction to a pure computational exercise. Empress Kira Valen realized something profound. Humanity was not just a new species. They were a completely new approach to understanding complexity, interaction, and potential cooperation. The diplomatic tension was not about conflict. It was about understanding, a mathematical dance of potential futures, calculated with a precision that made traditional negotiations look like ancient, primitive rituals. The stars around the Tau Ceti system seemed to hold their breath. 12 alien imperial squadrons approached with a confidence built on thousands of years of galactic conquest. Their weapons glowed with destructive potential, each ship a testament to generations of military development. Admiral Day Park watched the incoming fleet with complete calm. The USS Resolute's bridge was a symphony of silent computational power. No shouted orders, no dramatic movements, just pure, calculated precision. Commander Jay Huang's fingers moved across holographic interfaces. Each alien ship was already being analyzed, its potential threat calculated and neutralized before it could even complete its approach. The human supercarriers stood like silent guardians, their quantum adaptive shields already mapping every potential attack trajectory. The alien fleet commander, a veteran of countless galactic conflicts, felt something unusual. There was no traditional communication, no warning signals, just a complete, mathematical silence that felt more intimidating than any weapon. 17 minutes. That was all it took. The first alien missiles disappeared before they could even complete their launch sequences. Not destroyed, simply mathematically erased from potential existence. The computational systems of the human supercarriers didn't just defend. They predicted and eliminated threats at a level that defied traditional understanding of warfare. Propulsion systems on the alien ships began to fail, not through direct attack, but through complex computational interference that made their own technologies turn against them. Navigation systems collapsed. Communication networks dissolved. Each alien vessel became a helpless mechanical shell, drifting in the cold vacuum of space. Empress Kira Valen watched the live feed in total shock. Her most advanced military formation was being systematically neutralized without a single direct weapon being fired. It wasn't destruction, it was complete technological domination. The human approach was terrifyingly elegant. They weren't fighting. They were solving a complex mathematical problem. Each alien ship was a variable in an equation that humans were solving with impossible precision. Defensive systems on the alien ships became useless. The human computational networks had already calculated and neutralized every potential defensive strategy milliseconds before they could be implemented. It was like watching a complex chess match where one player knew every possible move before it could be made. Communication attempts by the alien fleet were met with pure silence. No traditional jamming, no electronic interference, just a complete computational barrier that made communication impossible. The aliens might as well have been trying to speak into a void. Admiral Park observed the engagement with the same calm he might use while reviewing routine maintenance reports. This wasn't a battle. This was a demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to technological interaction. 12 squadrons, completely neutralized. No human vessels had fired a single weapon. No human life had been directly endangered. It was warfare reduced to its most pure mathematical essence. The quantum adaptive shields of the human supercarriers didn't just defend, they analyzed. They learned. Each alien attack attempt became another piece of data, instantly integrated into an ever-evolving defensive network that became more sophisticated with each passing second. Rook Mercer, watching from the Imperial flagship, understood the profound transformation that had just occurred. This wasn't just a military engagement. This was a complete reimagining of conflict, reduced to pure computational logic. As the last alien ship drifted helplessly, the human fleet remained in perfect formation, silent, calculating, waiting, not as a threat, but as a demonstration of a completely new approach to technological existence. The confrontation lasted 17 minutes, but its implications would reshape galactic understanding forever. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had demonstrated that true power was not about destruction, but about complete calculated understanding. The stars around Tau Ceti seemed to whisper a new reality. The universe had just met a species that didn't just challenge technological boundaries, they erased them entirely. The Imperial Conference Hall was silent. Empress Kira Valen stared at the massive holographic displays showing the complete destruction of her most advanced military squadrons. 12 squadrons, 17 minutes, 0 human casualties. Rook Mercer, her chief strategic advisor, understood something fundamental had changed. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were a civilization that had completely reimagined technological interaction. The treaty negotiations were unlike anything in galactic history. Humans didn't demand territories. They didn't seek revenge. They presented a complex mathematical model of potential cooperative futures that made traditional diplomatic approaches look like children's drawings. Commander J. Huang represented humanity with a calm that felt almost supernatural. Each statement was a carefully constructed computational model, showing why cooperation was the most logical path. No emotions, no threats, just pure, calculated potential. The alien civilization suddenly realized they were not dealing with a young species, but a technological force that had been quietly developing a completely new approach to existence. The human supercarriers were more than weapons. They were living libraries of strategic intelligence. Admiral Day Park reviewed the initial treaty drafts with precise calculation. Humanity wasn't seeking dominance. They were offering a fundamental reimagining of interspecies cooperation. Economic models, technological exchange protocols, scientific collaboration frameworks. Everything was calculated with impossible precision. The quantum communication networks buzzed with complex data exchanges. Humans were teaching as much as negotiating. Each interaction was an opportunity to demonstrate a different approach to understanding complexity. Empress Kira Valen felt something she had never experienced before: genuine intellectual respect. These humans had not just defeated her military. They had demonstrated a completely different way of thinking about conflict, cooperation, and potential. The treaty that emerged was not a surrender document. It was a complex mathematical agreement that showed multiple potential futures of cooperative development. Economic projections, technological exchange models, scientific collaboration frameworks, all calculated with a precision that made traditional diplomatic documents look primitive. 1. Remarkable clause showed humanity's true approach. Instead of demanding territorial concessions, they presented a comprehensive model of mutual technological development that would benefit both civilizations. It wasn't about winning, it was about understanding. The alien research teams began studying human computational models. They discovered something profound. Humanity's technological approach was not just advanced, it was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent systems could interact. Complex quantum communication networks began exchanging information, not just data, but entire philosophical approaches to technological development. Humans were not just sharing information. They were teaching an entirely new way of understanding complexity. Rook Mercer noticed something unusual in the human approach. They weren't seeking to dominate. They were offering a partnership based on pure computational logic. Each interaction was an invitation to a more sophisticated way of understanding potential. The cosmic recalibration was not just a military or diplomatic shift. It was a fundamental transformation of how intelligent civilizations could interact. Humanity had demonstrated that true power was not about destruction, but about complete calculated understanding. Empress Kira Valen signed the treaty with a hand that slightly trembled, not from fear but from the profound understanding that everything had changed. The universe had just met a species that didn't just challenge technological boundaries, they erased them entirely. The human delegation didn't celebrate. They didn't show emotional triumph. They simply continued their computational analysis, already calculating the next potential stages of cooperative development. As the treaty was finalized, something remarkable happened. The alien civilization began to understand that they were not just entering an agreement. They were being invited to a completely new way of thinking about existence, cooperation, and potential. The stars around the conference hall seemed to whisper a new reality. Humanity had not just emerged as a galactic power. They had demonstrated a fundamentally different approach to understanding complexity, cooperation, and potential. The cosmic recalibration was complete, and nothing would ever be the same again.